What is going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today we are looking at one of the most famous chess games ever played. Not just famous for its time. Famous for all time. This is Paulson vs. Morphy, played at the first American Chess Congress in New York City in 1857. Paul Morphy is 20 years old. He has no computer, no opening preparation database, no engine to check his moves after the game. He just sits down and plays chess like nobody before him ever had. And what he produces in this game is so perfect, so beautiful, so far ahead of its time, that chess engines running in 2025 still cannot find improvements on his moves. So sit back, pay attention, because this game is going to change how you think about chess forever. Let us get into it. Paulson opens with e4. The king-pawn opening, the most classical, most aggressive way to start a chess game. Paulson wants to control the center immediately and he wants to open lines for his pieces. Nothing unusual here. This is standard 1857 chess. But pay attention to how Morphy responds to everything from this point forward. Because Morphy does not just play moves. He plays ideas. And every single idea in this game points toward one thing: the enemy king. Morphy plays e5 and mirrors the center immediately. Both sides have a pawn in the center. Both sides are fighting for space. This is called a double king-pawn opening and it leads to the most open, most tactical, most aggressive chess possible. Which is exactly what Morphy wants. Morphy thrives in open positions. He wants his pieces to have maximum activity. He wants lines open. He wants to attack. And with e5 he gets all of that immediately. Knight f3 from Paulson. The knight attacks the e5 pawn right away. This is the most natural developing move in the entire game of chess. You develop a piece, you attack an enemy pawn, you prepare to castle. Three things accomplished in one move. Paulson is playing very sensible chess here. But here is the thing about Paulson. He is a defensive player. A positional player. He likes to build slowly, consolidate, and wait. And he is about to sit down across from the most aggressive attacking player of the 19th century. This will not end well for him. Knight c6 from Morphy. Defending the e5 pawn with a piece. Again completely natural. Again completely logical. The knight goes to its best square, defends the pawn, and eyes the center. No wasted moves from Morphy. Every single piece goes exactly where it should go. This is something Morphy was famous for. He understood piece development better than anyone of his era. While his opponents wasted moves pushing pawns and shuffling pieces around, Morphy just developed everything perfectly and then attacked. Knight c3 from Paulson. Another natural developing move. Knight comes out, supports the center, prepares future action. Paulson is following all the correct opening principles. Develop pieces, control the center, prepare to castle. He is doing everything right. But Morphy is also doing everything right. And Morphy is going to start doing things that are beyond right. He is going to start doing things that are genius. Knight f6 from Morphy. The knight comes out to f6 and immediately attacks the e4 pawn. Morphy hits back at the center right away. He never gives his opponent a free move. He never lets the opponent just build up without consequence. Every move Morphy plays either develops a piece, attacks something, or both. This is the Morphy philosophy. Activity. Initiative. Pressure. Always pressure. Bishop b5 from Paulson. Now we are in the four knights opening with a Spanish bishop. Paulson pins the knight c6 against the king. This is a real threat. If Morphy is not careful, Paulson can take on c6, double the pawns, and create long-term structural damage. Paulson thinks he has created a real problem for Morphy to solve. But watch what Morphy does. He does not solve the problem the way a normal player would. He ignores it completely and creates a bigger problem for Paulsen instead. Bishop c5 from Morphy. Look at this. The bishop goes to c5. Morphy does not defend the pin. He does not play a 6 to kick the bishop. He does not play knight d4 to trade pieces. He just develops his own bishop to the most aggressive square available. The bishop on c5 eyes the f2 square. And f2 is the weakest square in white's entire position because it is only defended by the king. I want you to remember this bishop on c5. Remember where it is pointing. Because this bishop is going to be extremely important later in the game. Morphy has a long-term plan and this bishop is part of it. Castles kingside from Paulsen. Castling kingside. The king tucks away behind the pawns and feels safe. This is the right decision. This is what you are supposed to do in the opening. Get your king safe and connect your rooks. Paulsen is playing very reasonable chess. But here is the problem. When Morphy attacks your kingside, being castled there does not feel safe at all. It feels like your king is trapped in a corner waiting to be hunted. Castles kingside from Morphy. Morphy castles too. Both kings are safe. Both players are now out of the opening phase and entering the middle game. Now Morphy has to find a plan. And his plan is already forming in his mind. His bishop sits on c5 pointing at f2. His knights are developed. His rooks are about to connect. Everything is ready. Paulsen on the other hand has his pieces on reasonable squares but nothing is really threatening anything. He is comfortable but passive. And passive against Morphy is a death sentence. Knight captures e5 from Morphy. Here we go. This is the moment that separates Morphy from every other player of his era. He takes the e5 pawn with his knight. On the surface this looks like a blunder. The knight on e5 can be attacked immediately. Paulsen can win it back. So why does Morphy take it? Because Morphy has seen something that Paulsen has not seen. Something that takes several moves to reveal itself. If you are watching this for the first time and you thought this was a mistake, do not worry. Every player in that tournament hall in 1857 thought the same thing. They were all wrong. Rook e8 from Morphy. And here is the point. The rook comes to e8 and pins the knight on e5 against Paulsen's king. Now if Paulsen takes the knight, the rook recaptures and white has lost material. The pawn grab on e5 was not a blunder. It was a trap. Morphy sacrificed a pawn to activate his rook, pin Paulsen's knight, and seize control of the e-file. This is the kind of chess that nobody was playing in 1857. Everyone else was moving pieces around hoping something would happen. Morphy was calculating concrete sequences and setting traps 5 moves deep. Knight captures c6 from Paulsen. Paulsen decides to trade the knight and simplify the position. He takes on c6 and tries to break the pin this way. This is a logical decision. When you are under pressure you try to trade pieces and reduce the attacking potential of your opponent. But the problem is that every trade Morphy makes leads to more activity for his remaining pieces, not less. Paulsen is trying to simplify into safety. He will not find it. D captures c6 from Morphy. Morphy recaptures with the d-pawn and now look at the position. The e-file is completely open. The rook on e8 now has a clear highway pointing directly at Paulsen's king. And that rook is not alone for long. Morphy's other rook is coming to join it. Paulsen has doubled the c-pawns which looks like a structural weakness, but Morphy does not care about long-term structural weaknesses. He cares about activity right now. And right now his rook on e8 is the most dangerous piece on the board. Bishop c4 from Paulsen. Paulsen retreats the bishop back to c4. He is trying to get his pieces to active squares and prepare to exploit the doubled c-pawns. A reasonable plan. But the problem is timing. While Paulson is slowly repositioning his pieces, Morphy is already building pressure. Morphy does not give his opponents time to execute their plans. He creates threats so fast that the opponent is always responding, never acting. b5 from Morphy. Morphy kicks the bishop immediately. No rest for Paulson. The bishop has to move again, wasting another tempo. This is the Morphy principle in action. Every move either develops a piece or gains time. The b5 pawn attacks the bishop and forces it to retreat, giving Morphy another free move to improve his position. Morphy is essentially playing two moves to Paulson's one because Paulson keeps having to react. Bishop e2 from Paulson. The bishop retreats to e2. It is not a terrible square. The bishop can come to f3 later and contest the open file. But look at the big picture. Paulson's bishop has moved 3 times in the opening and it is now sitting passively on e2 doing nothing particularly useful. Meanwhile, Morphy's bishop on c5 has been sitting on an aggressive diagonal the entire game, not wasting a single move. Morphy is already winning the development battle completely. Knight captures e4 from Morphy. Morphy wins another pawn with the knight. He is just taking material now because it is there and because taking it activates his pieces further. The knight on e4 is a powerful centralized piece. But more importantly, watch what Morphy does with this knight in the next move. This is not just pawn grabbing. This is piece activation through material gain. Knight captures e4 from Paulson. Paulson must recapture. He takes the knight with his own knight. Now the position is relatively symmetrical in material, but look at the piece activity. Morphy's pieces are all pointing at Paulson's king. Paulson's pieces are scattered and passive. Material equality does not tell the whole story. Activity tells the story. And Morphy is winning the activity battle by a wide margin. If you are enjoying this breakdown, hit the follow button. We are just getting to the good part. Rook captures e4 from Morphy. The rook recaptures and lands on e4. This is a monster square. The rook on e4 is centralized, active, and ready to swing to either side of the board. It can go to g4 to attack the king side. It can go to h4 to support an attack on the h-file. It can stay on the e-file and pressure the center. Morphy has maximum flexibility with this rook. Paulson has to figure out how to deal with it while also developing his own pieces. He cannot do both at the same time. Bishop f3 from Paulson. Paulson develops the bishop to f3 and challenges the rook directly. He wants to trade the bishop for the rook, get rid of this dominant piece, and simplify the position. This is a sensible idea. If you can trade a bishop for a rook, you win material and reduce the pressure. But Morphy has a beautiful response that maintains the activity of all his pieces while simultaneously improving his position even further. Rook e6 from Morphy. The rook slides to e6. This move is absolutely gorgeous. The rook does not retreat. It does not run away from the bishop. It just moves to a better square. And from e6 the rook has a very specific destination in mind. It is going to g6. And when it gets to g6, it will be pointing directly at Paulson's king on g1. This is what chess masters call a prophylactic move with a hidden purpose. It looks calm and quiet. It is actually loading a gun. c3 from Paulson. Paulson plays c3 trying to stabilize the queenside and prepare to expand. A normal move. But here is the truth about Paulson's position at this point. He has no real plan. He is just making reasonable moves and hoping Morphy does not find anything too devastating. He should be afraid. Morphy has already seen the entire combination that is coming. He is just setting up the pieces on their ideal squares before he pulls the trigger. Queen d3 from Morphy. Look at this queen placement. Morphy's queen lands on d3 and from here it eyes the h3 square diagonally. It also eyes the f3 bishop directly. And it coordinates beautifully with the rook on e6 and the bishop on c5 that has been sitting there quietly since move 7 waiting for its moment. All of Morphy's pieces are now loaded and pointing at the same target. This is chess symphony, every instrument playing its part. b4 from Paulsen. Paulsen pushes b4 on the queen side, trying to win material or create counterplay. And you know what, in a normal game against a normal player this might work. The queen side expansion creates real threats. But this is not a normal game and Paulsen is not playing a normal player. While Paulsen is thinking about the queen side, Morphy is building a nuclear weapon on the king side and the fuse is almost lit. Bishop b6 from Morphy. The bishop retreats to b6 but crucially it stays on the long diagonal. This bishop has been on this diagonal for almost the entire game. Just sitting there, watching, waiting. And now with the queen on d3 and the rook on e6 ready to come to g6, this bishop is about to become the most important piece on the board. Remember it. It is going to do something extraordinary very soon. a4 from Paulsen. Paulsen pushes the a-pawn and attacks the bishop. He wants to win material on the queen side and open lines for his own attack. And honestly, looking at the queen side in isolation, Paulsen is doing well. He has more space there and real threats. But chess is not played on half the board. And on the other half, Morphy is about to unleash something that nobody in 1857 had ever seen before. B captures a4 from Morphy. Morphy captures on a4 and the queen comes to recapture with tempo. The queenside exchange actually helps Morphy because it allows his queen to come to a4 with a forcing move, meaning Paulsen must respond. Meaning Morphy gets another free move to improve his other pieces. This is the genius of Morphy's chess. Even his reactive moves are aggressive. Even his defensive responses gain time. Queen captures a4 from Paulsen. The queen recaptures on a4. Now Paulsen's queen is active on the queen side. It eyes the a7 pawn and the c6 pawn. In a normal game this would be very good. But Morphy is not interested in the queen side. He has not been interested in the queen side this entire game. He has been building on the king side and the center. And he is almost ready to strike. Bishop d7 from Paulsen. Paulsen finally develops his light-squared bishop to d7. Finally. The bishop has been sitting on c1 doing nothing for the entire game while Morphy has been building his attack. This is a fundamental problem with Paulsen's play in this game. He developed too slowly. While Morphy was activating every single piece with purpose, Paulsen was making queenside expansions and pawn moves. Now his bishop comes out far too late to have any impact on what is about to happen. Rook a2 from Paulsen. The rook comes to a2. Paulsen is trying to defend. He can see that Morphy has a very active position and he is trying to bring more pieces back to defend. His king, a rook on a2 can swing to g2 to defend the king side. It is a reasonable defensive idea. But here is the problem. Against the combination that Morphy has calculated, there is no defense. Paulsen could double his rooks on the second rank, bring his queen back, castle queenside. Do anything he wants. It will not matter. The attack is coming and it is unstoppable. Ray8 from Morphy. And there it is. Morphy doubles his rooks on the e-file. Both rooks. Both loaded cannons. Pointing directly at Paulsen's king. Look at this position. Morphy has the rook on e6 ready to swing to g6. He has the rook on e8 ready to swing to anywhere it needs to go. He has the queen on d3 eyeing h3. He has the bishop on b6 watching the long diagonal. Every single piece is coordinated. Every single piece has a role in the attack. This is masterclass piece coordination. This is why Morphy is studied in chess schools 167 years later. Queen a6 from Paulsen. Paulsen's queen goes to a6 thinking it can create counterplay by attacking the a7 pawn or eyeing Morphy's queenside. Poor Paulsen. He genuinely believes he has counterplay here. He does not know that in 3 moves his king will be running for its life. Follow for more game breakdowns like this. What Morphy does next is one of the most shocking moves in chess history. Queen captures f3 from Morphy. The queen sacrifice. Stop. Look at this move. Morphy takes the bishop on f3 with his queen. He is giving up his queen. Voluntarily. With no forced recapture option. Just handing over the most powerful piece on the board in exchange for a bishop. In 1857 this was incomprehensible. The queen is worth 9 points. The bishop is worth 3 points. You do not give up 9 points for 3 points. That is not chess. That is madness. Except when you are Paul Morphy. Because Morphy has calculated that after this queen sacrifice, his attack becomes so powerful that the material does not matter. The king is going to get hunted down. And no amount of material advantage will save it. G captures f3 from Paulsen. Paulsen takes the queen. He has to. You cannot refuse a free queen. But by taking with the G pawn he has opened the G file. And that rook on e6 is going to g6 right now. The moment Paulsen played G captures f3 his king's fate was sealed. He did not know it yet. But Morphy knew it from move 17. Rook g6 check from Morphy. The rook crashes to g6 with check. Paulsen's king is in check. No queen on the board. No heavy piece defending the kingside. Just a lone king sitting behind some pawns with Morphy's rook, 2 bishops, and another rook all pointed directly at it. This is the moment the audience in New York realized they were watching something extraordinary. This is the moment that made this game immortal. King h1 from Paulsen. King forced to h1. The only legal move. And now look at the position. The king is in the corner. It cannot escape to g1 because the rook controls g6 and the g file. It cannot go to f1 because that would allow even more powerful attacks. It is trapped in the corner like an animal in a cage. And Morphy has the key. Bishop h3 from Morphy. This is the most beautiful move in the entire game. The bishop glides silently to h3. No check, no capture, no immediate threat of checkmate. Just a quiet move. And yet this is the move that wins the game. Because the bishop on h3 cuts off the king's only escape route. The king cannot go to g2 because the bishop controls that square. It cannot go anywhere safe. It is completely suffocated. In one silent bishop move, Morphy has put the king in a cage that it will never escape. If you are learning chess, study this move. Not the queen sacrifice. This move. The quiet move after the sacrifice. This is what separates good players from great ones. Rook d1 from Paulsen. Paulsen activates his rook desperately. He needs to create some kind of counterplay. He needs to threaten something. He needs to do anything to distract Morphy from the attack. But Morphy cannot be distracted. He has calculated everything, every variation, every escape, every counter. And his next move proves it. Bishop g2 check from Morphy. The bishop swings to g2 with check. And this is not just a check. This bishop move simultaneously attacks the rook on f1. It is a double attack. Check the king and win the rook. Paulsen cannot deal with both threats at the same time. This is the beauty of Morphy's attack. He creates multiple threats simultaneously so that defending one allows the other to succeed. Paulsen is completely helpless. King g1 from Paulsen. King runs back to g1. The only square it can go to without losing immediately. But there is no safety on g1. There is no safety anywhere on this board for Paulsen's king. Morphy has cut off every escape route. The king is just running in circles now. Bishop captures f3 check from Morphy. The second bishop joins the attack. It takes on f3 with check. Now both bishops are active. Both bishops are hunting the king together. The first bishop on g2 and the second bishop on f3. They are coordinating like a pair of wolves working together to corner their prey. Paulsen's king has nowhere to go. King f1 from Paulsen. King runs to f1. Forced. The only legal move. And Morphy just keeps going. He has seen every single response. Every king move. Every defensive try. He calculated all of this before he played the queen sacrifice. He is not thinking anymore. He is just executing the plan he already saw. Bishop g2 check from Morphy. The bishop bounces back to g2 with check again. The king is being chased back and forth across the board. g2 check, king moves, f3 check, king moves, g2 check again. It looks like the bishops are just shuffling around, but every move is purposeful. Every check drives the king exactly where Morphy wants it. King g1 from Paulsen. King back to g1. Going in circles. Completely helpless. And I want you to think about this for a moment. Morphy calculated all of this from move 17 when he played the queen sacrifice. He saw this king going back and forth. He saw every bishop check. He saw every forced king move. All of it, before he gave up his queen. That is the level of calculation we are talking about. That is Paul Morphy. Bishop h3 check from Morphy. The bishop swings back to h3 with check again. The bishop dance continues. The king is being herded like cattle. Morphy is not in a rush. He is not trying to checkmate in the fastest possible way. He is systematically stripping away every pawn, every defender, every escape route from Paulsen's king. This is chess torture. Beautiful, precise, inevitable chess torture. King h1 from Paulsen. King retreats to the corner again. And now watch. This is where Morphy springs the next part of his plan. The king is on h1. The g-file bishop has been doing its job. Now Morphy sends the other bishop to take an extremely important pawn. Bishop captures f2 from Morphy. The bishop takes the f2 pawn. This is a massive move. The f2 pawn was the last shield protecting Paulsen's king. With that pawn gone, the king is completely naked. No shelter, no cover, no protection. And now Morphy has a bishop on f2 threatening all kinds of deadly moves. The attack is reaching its climax. Queen f1 from Paulsen. In complete desperation, Paulsen plays queen to f1. He is trying to give back some material to relieve the pressure. He is trying to trade queens and simplify the position. He is trying anything at this point just to survive. But it is far too late. The position is beyond saving. There is no simplification that helps Paulsen now. Morphy has too many weapons. Bishop captures f1 from Morphy. Morphy calmly takes the queen with his bishop. Now look at this position. Morphy has traded his bishop for Paulsen's queen, but Morphy still has two completely dominant rooks controlling the entire board. One rook on g6 and one rook on e8. Both of them pointing at Paulsen's cornered king. No queen is needed. No queen is wanted. Two rooks with the initiative are more than enough. Rook captures f1 from Paulsen. Paulsen recaptures with the rook. The queens are off the board. And normally when queens come off the board, the position simplifies and the attacking side loses some of their pressure. Not here. Here, removing the queens just makes Morphy's rooks even more dominant because there is nothing left to defend against them. Rook e2 from Morphy. The rook invades the second rank. Rook e2 is a devastating move. The rook on e2 threatens to come to h2 for checkmate. It threatens to swing to f2. It controls the entire second rank and Paulsen has no way to deal with it. This is technique. This is how you convert an attack into a win. Piece by piece, threat by threat, until the position collapses completely. Rook a1 from Paulsen. Paulsen shuffles his rook. There is nothing constructive left to do. No counterplay, no threats, no hope. He is just making moves, waiting for the inevitable. Running out of moves. Running out of ideas. Running out of hope. Rook h6 from Morphy. The second rook swoops to h6. Now Morphy threatens checkmate on h2. And at the same time the rook on e2 controls the entire second rank. Paulsen cannot stop both threats simultaneously. He cannot defend the h2 square and deal with the e2 rook at the same time. The position has completely collapsed. This is what Morphy does. He builds threats until there are more threats than you can handle. d4 from Paulsen. Paulsen plays d4 in absolute desperation. There is nothing left. This move does not help the king. This move does not stop the checkmate threats. It is just a move. Any move. Because Paulsen has run out of everything else. He is a grandmaster in 1857 being demolished by a 20-year-old, and there is nothing he can do about it. Bishop e3 from Morphy. And here it is. The final move. Bishop e3. The bishop comes to e3 and covers every last square the king might try to run to. The checkmate is unavoidable. The rook on h6 will come to h2. The rook on e2 controls the escape squares. The bishop on e3 covers the rest. Paulsen looks at the position. He sees the forced checkmate coming. He tips over his king. He resigns. The masterpiece is complete. Ladies and gentlemen, what you just witnessed is not just a famous chess game. It is arguably the most perfectly played game in the history of chess. Paul Morphy, 20 years old, New York City, 1857. He sacrificed his queen on move 17, having calculated every single response. He hunted the king with two bishops while everyone in the room thought he had lost his mind. And every single move from the queen sacrifice to the final bishop on e3 was the best possible move available. Chess engines running in 2025, with billions of calculations per second, still cannot improve on what Morphy played in this game. With no computer, no engine, no preparation, just pure human genius sitting across from a chessboard in 1857. If this game changed how you see chess, if this showed you what chess can be at its absolute highest level, then like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I will keep bringing you the greatest games ever played. Because there is so much more where this came from. See you in the next one.